Good morning, good morning. It is sunny, but kind of cloudy at the same time, which is interesting. And oh, we got a cat. But yeah, look at this amazing view. All right. Hello, YouTube. Today, I have another video that has notes involved. But the reason for this is I'm working on my synthesis to try to make these shorter, but just as much value filled. So today we're talking about the age-old question or topic or self-reflection that, entrepreneurs and people in business and even other areas have. I'm worried someone will steal my business idea, or I'm worried someone's going to steal my startup idea, my invention, any type of idea that can be executed on and made money from, hence have value to other people, and hence make you think that they might want to steal it. Today I want to talk about three main things. The reality, to sort of calm you down, slash make you realize, what you're working with, at least based on my experiences and the stories I've heard and all the success and failures I've heard of. And then I want to talk to you about an optimal approach, or at least what I've done to mitigate any risk that's real versus that's not real, which we would have realized by that point. And then lastly, I want to touch upon some notes and alternatives, because some of you might still be looking for tips on how to actually mitigate that possibility. And I think it's a great time to talk about those after having gone through an optimal way to address the issue and having contextualized the issue. So let's get right into it with the reality. So in my experience in entrepreneurship or any other business space, success is on average, at least, if you want to quantify it, 10% idea, 80% work and execution, and 10% luck. And I say this again on average for many reasons. First, most success stories you'll hear of either come from sort of intense luck or intense good timing paired with intense work. I think of the dot-com era where timing was a big factor. Almost any stock with a dot-com blew up at that time. But even detaching yourself from sort of financial metrics, think of companies where the idea is just so simple and so just common sense, and a lot of people had that idea, but it's the execution that made it amazing. I think of Calendly, for example, where there were a lot of scheduling assistants and sort of startups in the space, but they just did it so well execution-wise that made them blow up. And I'm sure, in a lot of these companies, luck plays a role. I think of those stories of entrepreneurs who are like, yeah, I did that one thing at some point and that led to this thing and that led to the other thing. I think of Steve Jobs, who took his, was it calligraphy class or something like that in college? And that was the foundation for modern fonts in operating systems, at least on the Mac. And so, yeah, to me, it's really a combination of these three in business, in success, in these areas at least, where it's, again, 10% idea on average, 80% work and execution on average, and then 10% luck on average. Of course, you can't succeed in any business venture without the idea, the core of everything you're doing, right? But you have to realize, before we get into the rest of this video, that it's definitely not the most valuable. First off, it's going to shift and change so much as you execute and over the years, and as market trends and people's habits and lifestyles change, your idea is going to change as well. And then, again, most importantly, most of the money, most of the effort, most of the actual revenue and success comes from the work and the execution, what is done over a sustained period, not that one epiphany you had 10 years ago that led to a company's foundation. And then luck is quite important, because a lot of the entrepreneurial success stories tend to be not replicable for many reasons. One, whoever started a company already penetrated the market or dominates it. But most importantly, you're not in the same time or era as the person that started the other thing, and you don't have the same circumstances. And so entrepreneurship really isn't a one-size-fits-all where you can just replicate a template. And so with all this in mind, you have to realize that, again, the idea isn't the most valuable part of a successful business venture. The second thing I want you to realize is that people are busy and don't care most of the time. So Think of yourself, like if you had 15 business ideas coming to you a day, would you act on every single one of them? No. Would you even act on one of them that you thought was really good if you had, 10 businesses to run, or a family to take care of, or a movie to direct, whatever it is? And so there's just a lot of factors that make it that people are busy and don't even care about your business idea in the first place. And so these first two things in combination should make you realize that your idea isn't that valuable in the first place, at least by itself. And most of the circumstances where people are worried about their business idea being stolen are those where you're just sharing the core of it, right? Like just that epiphany you had initially. And so these 2 points should make you realize that it's not that valuable. That being said, it is still very valid and very reasonable to still be worried about your idea being stolen because of many other factors, like you thinking it's a revolutionary idea, the idea being very easy to execute, there being low barriers to entry in whatever space you're in, many other reasons. And so I want to take you with your logic, which I had many times in my business ventures, which is I'm still worried, right? May have calmed you down a little bit, but you still are worried. So here is what I think the optimal approach is in that situation. The best protection is execution. I'm not the first to say it, definitely. It is not the only way to say it. There are many variations of this, but it's very important and in my experience, very true. The best protection is execution. People tend to remember the first brand they interacted with for a certain product. In many countries, tissues or like napkins, whatever you want to call them, are called Kleenex because Kleenex is the first sort of big name brand that branded that commodity. And I say this example not because it's revolutionary or the business idea is crazy, napkins have always existed, but it just so happens that people associated that brand with this thing so much that it became the name for it. So people tend to be very simple in how they remember and act on brands and companies and interact with them. Another example, Polaroids. Polaroid is a company, it's not the name of the thing, right? And so people associate with that. And all this to say that if you really have a new idea or a revolutionary idea, people will associate you with the thing you're bringing into this world first, if you are the first to do it or the biggest to do it first, right? And so, having a patent, people don't check patent listings. It's more of a legal thing. People don't check the history of brands to figure out which one was there first. Their mind has a space for that product and service, and if you're the first to execute on it, you'll be associated with it automatically. And so that means that the best protection is execution, but that execution needs to be quick, nimble, and dynamic. And a lot of this comes back to the lean methodology and all those approaches where it's like execute as fast as possible. However you approach the execution, it just needs to be the first thing that you do in most cases. And that's the best protection because statistically you'll win the most or make the most out of your idea if you execute on it as quick as possible to protect it versus going through lengthy legal processes or other sort of methods. It's a very simple, optimal approach. There's not much to it beyond that. The best protection is execution in my humble opinion. But I want to touch upon some notes and alternatives. The first note is that while executing, you're definitely going to have to reveal your idea to different stakeholders and in different cases. And so in that sense, you can still take measures to protect beyond just simple execution. And the first thing is to only reveal as much as needed when executing quickly. So for example, if you have investors approaching you, but you're not at a point yet where they seem really serious, you can just show them the surface level of your idea and sort of stop there. There are other cases as well where you might need to reveal some part of your business idea. I think of needing customer feedback early on before they're even customers, or needing to do surveys to gauge potential interest. And so in those cases as well, you can just reveal as much as needed only and not go into details unless it's really necessary. So the second thing you can do is take basic measures that again protect your business idea at the surface. And so a couple examples of these are NDAs that you can sign if appropriate in some cases. Confidentiality notes, the little things at the bottom of emails that say this is confidential or intended only for the recipient. In PowerPoints, you can add a first slide, sort of cover slide that says this is confidential. And then lastly, the third note I want to end on is lawyers and sort of legal procedures. These are viable alternatives in some cases. Again, if you're like in pharmacology or biotech startups or these spaces where there's a lot that depends on the patent. Obviously, take what I say with a grain of salt and go through the right procedures. But in tech startups and in e-commerce and all these spaces, lawyers are mostly worth it only for specific cases. Stay informed, but try to avoid them as much as possible for that reason. And so yeah, to recap, the reality is people are busy, don't care, or your idea isn't the most valuable part of your business or venture in the first place. That being said, if you are still worried, the best protection is execution. That is quick, nimble, and dynamic, being careful of not revealing more than needed in most cases, and just using basic common sense measures like NDAs if appropriate and confidentiality notes. And that is it. The best protection is execution. I would have hated to watch this video when I was asking myself this question, but it's just the reality that I've experienced, that I've heard people experience, and that honestly just makes sense when you listen to it. So if you made it this far, I hope you realize that that's the case. I'm not a legal advisor in any way though, so yeah, don't sue me for saying this. Take care.